support is damaged permanently. We only have enough oxygen aboard for 3 people.
Netflix's Stowaway is an unexpected addition on a mission to Mars puts everyone's lives in danger, leading to an impossible choice. This leads to a harrowing debate about what can be done, and if those plans don't work out, who should live and who should die. Everyone on the ship has different perspectives on how to deal with their circumstances, but in the end, the question of who makes it to Mars is decided by a number of factors, including some outside of the small group's control. And ultimately, the others survive because of one crew member's heroic sacrifice. 12 hours after the ship has taken off for Mars, Commander Marina Barnett finds Michael Adams, a launch support engineer, stowed away in a compartment in the ceiling of the ship. Unfortunately, he's in exactly the wrong place. His harness is wrapped around the pipe to the carbon dioxide removal assembly, which is essential for providing the crew with enough oxygen to breathe. Even worse, the damage can't be fixed. This leaves only enough oxygen on the ship for 2 of the people on board to make it to Mars alive. And that's only if the other 2 die, because if all 4 continue to breathe the ship's air, everyone will die before they get to the Red Planet. Their first shot at survival rests on the shoulders of biologist David Kim, who plans to conduct research with algae when he gets to Mars. The algae might be able to clean the carbon dioxide from the ship's air and create more oxygen, so although he lacks all the equipment he needs to properly cultivate it, David agrees to use half of his algae to see if this can work. The plan is a success, creating enough oxygen for 1 more person to get to Mars. While he's reluctant, he then uses the other half of the algae to try to create enough oxygen for all 4 people on board. The crew's hopes are dashed when the second batch of algae dies almost immediately, and the crisis continues when the first batch dies shortly afterwards. This leaves the crew with just one last chance of ensuring more than just 2 of them will survive their journey. When they blasted off, they used the upper stages of the spent rocket, named the Kingfisher, as a counterweight to create gravity on MTS-42. The Kingfisher is attached to MTS-42 by a 500-foot tether, and it still has liquid oxygen on board. If the crew can make it to the Kingfisher and bring back enough oxygen to the MTS-42, everyone just might make it to Mars after all. Of course, climbing up a 500-foot tether in space isn't an easy feat, and the only trained astronaut on board is Commander Barnett, who can't go because she's the only one who knows how to make MTS-42 work. This leaves David and Zoe, who don't have the breadth of Commander Barnett's knowledge, but have trained for this particular mission. Climbing to the Kingfisher is grueling, and when they reach the spent rocket, Zoe finds the oxygen there is leaking. However, there is still enough there for 2 people. She fills 1 cylinder, but before she can finish filling the second, Commander Barnett urgently calls her and David back to MTS-42. A solar storm is coming, and the radiation will kill anyone outside the ship. David and Zoe start the 500-foot journey back to the MTS-42 with 1 cylinder of oxygen in tow. However, Zoe loses control towards the end of the tether and ends up sliding down at a speed that causes her to drop the cylinder of oxygen. So while the pair make it back to the ship, saving their lives in the short term, they still don't have enough oxygen for everyone in the long term. And because Zoe dropped the first cylinder, there's no longer any hope of everyone making it to Mars. 1 person will have to die to ensure the survival of the others. And if they can't make it back to the Kingfisher and retrieve the rest of the oxygen before it leaks out, 2 will die. Making matters even worse, the solar storm is going to last for hours, so whoever leaves the ship to get the oxygen will die from radiation exposure. Michael offers to do the job, but since his lack of training means he's unlikely to make it back with the cylinder, Commander Barnett rejects the idea. David offers to go, but on their first mission to the Kingfisher, it was obvious Zoe was far more capable of maneuvering in space than David. So ultimately Zoe resolves to go. Throughout the film, she has been the most committed to trying to keep everyone on board alive, and now that it's clear that can't happen, she commits to sacrificing her life for the other 3. Zoe says her goodbyes and then climbs back to the Kingfisher and retrieves the oxygen. She uses a rope to drop off the cylinder inside MTS-42, ensuring Commander Barnett, David, and Michael's survival. She sits outside and takes her final breaths as the movie comes to an end.